Hey there, hope you are doing absolutely fantastic. Today we're going to talk about Wartales, a brutal, epic, exciting romp through a medieval landscape that will make you regret naming your starting troop after your closest friends, because you watched them die. Grotesquely. Now, the first thing to mention about Wartales is that there is no linear story. Imagine you join a D&D campaign and the DM has built this incredible and well-detailed world and just lets you and your squad discover it to your best desires. There is no ending, that I've found, at the very least, but trust me when I say that only adds to the game's vibe of blazing forth your own path to glory. Now, this video may be a bit longer than my normal quick reviews, so I've split my review into two parts. The first half is me talking about my favorite game mechanics, locations, some of the features this game holds and such. In the latter half of this same video, I will be talking more about what I think of the game on a more personal level, if that makes sense. So feel free to skip ahead if you desire. Alright, so your squad. Wartales opens with a relatively bare bones character creator that allows you to name and design your starting 4 members plus your pony. I personally, as mentioned before, named all my characters off of some of my closest friends. You also get to give these characters small attribute buffs that inflict which playstyle they inhabit, and if you want more attributes than allowed, you can take a debuff to gain an extra attribute slot. Each also gets a starting class, be it archer, rogue, swordsman, or warhammer wielder. Finally, you select why your team became an adventuring party. What was your inciting incident? From a group of soldiers who ran from the morally ambiguous army, or to a group of farmers who just dreamed of something more. These different starting points also affect your team. For example, if you pick the AWOL soldier's backstory, you and your team start as wanted by that military. So should you run into them, you best be prepared to fight your way out, or perhaps slide them some gold to make it worth their while to forget you. Alright, so now that you have your people, you are dropped into the same spawn point every time. It acts as a small tutorial as bandits immediately strike at you, giving you a quick demo of the combat in the game. Wartales utilizes a gridless combat map, allowing for any kind of positioning under the sun. Wartales puts heavy emphasis on flanking as well as utilizing your special ability points as well. Speaking of these little motes of brutality, each character has different abilities that put to use these points depending on their class and weapon. Some weapons have large AoE abilities and single target destruction depending on what type of weapon it is, be it a bow or a crossbow or maybe a spear. Archers specifically have a lot of area control abilities that use an Overwatch-esque mechanic. But be careful in combat. Injuries can be sustained when a unit takes a heavy blow, and these injuries can cause lasting pains in your ass if not treated. At the start of the game, you typically have a good deal of the potions used to heal these, but later on they feel rarer as you progress to new lands. Speaking of new lands, let's talk about travel. In Wartales, you traverse the world map at your own speed, and at the start of the game you can pick for the world to be level gated or level adapting to yours, meaning enemies will either always be the same difficulty or you can get mopped if you take too many left turns. This feeling though of walking along these roads and becoming familiar with each destination is a goddamn blast. It somehow gives me vibes of playing through The Witcher 3 and becoming so familiar with all of its twisting roads. It is fantastic, and while you mosey around, you run into traveling merchants, brigands, and all kinds of other people. It makes the world feel so very lived in, and the current tensions of war that is going on manages to make the world feel even more alive. And truly, some of these locations are very cool. I would love to walk the streets of Gothenburg one day in a third-person game. I would love to see the studio continue making RPG-style games. They are very good at it. Otherwise, traveling in Wartales also takes energy from your people, so after the top bar depletes, you must make camp and take a rest. Camp is another interesting thing that allows you to connect with your people more deeply, have conversations with them, and in general set up a cool looking camp in the way that you want. They also have this mechanic where you get to give each character different professions, be it chef, fire stoker, captain, all kinds of different ones. And as you get more things for your camp, like a bubbling pot for cooking food or a tent, whoever gets assigned to these gives a different benefit to your party during the day. It just adds more flavor to your party and makes them seem less faceless. They will sometimes have quarrels among themselves or even existential crises, and you get to decide how you respond to them. I do kind of wish that when this happened, the game didn't show you the result for each decision, as it does take some of the agency away from it, since I'd rather just pick the most beneficial option, you know? But anyhow, that's the rough cut of most of the game's systems. But trust me, I haven't even gotten into leveling up your characters and a whole host of other mechanics and cool tidbits you don't really experience until later into the game. And this review is already longer than planned, so I should likely get my ass a-moving. So, now that you have a decent grasp of what Wartales is all about, let's talk more about what plot there is, the world, and my thoughts on it in general. This world is, in many ways, a husk of its former self. We enter this story a century after the fall of the Great Idoran Empire, which was swept under the rug by a horrifying plague that massacred the lands. In its stead, nothing but banditry, thievery, and a general lack of honor remains. As put in the game's description of itself, you are not the hero of this story, destined to usher in a new era of peace. Your goal is solely to survive and thrive in this harsh and hostile world by any means necessary. And they were not lying about that. This shattered world is ripe for the picking, and you might as well, right? Whether you manage to scrape some honor together or forgo it entirely, this game is brimming with possibilities for either playstyle you wish to inhabit. And the locations you get to visit along the way, they fucking kick ass. From Arthas to Ludern, you will have an incredible journey, and I'm going to avoid sharing some of the better vistas because it is far more rewarding to experience something like Gothenburg for the first time in game. I will not be taking that away from you, especially since a huge portion of this game is about exploration and discovery. So, what do I think of Wartales? You've probably already noticed I love this game. It is genuinely fantastic, and in many ways very unique. There isn't really a game just like it. It fills its turn-based niche perfectly and manages to also be a great RPG on top of that. While your party can get rather large to the point that when one dies you don't really feel anything for them, the starting squad genuinely feel like a team against the world. And I adore that. For me, the later game is definitely where this does falter, if at all. But that's really to be expected for a purely open world game with no real ending. You can definitely feel like you are just traveling aimlessly for a few hours at a time, but just picking up bounties and completing them is really fun for me. The game can also be incredibly brutal. I had to restart a session because I got gangbanged by two different squads, one after the other. It was not a pleasant experience. Regardless of my trauma though, this game is fantastic. Truly, and if you enjoy turn-based games or large-scale RPGs, this one is worth experiencing. And for $35, this game is a goddamn steal. Anyhow, thank you so very much for watching. Sorry this review took just so long to make. I've been having lots of fun life experiences as of late, and in general I've been pretty busy. Thanks so much for sticking around, all you lovely people. Don't forget to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more content from me, don't forget about that big red subscribe button down there. But most importantly of all, have a damned wonderful day, and don't die. See ya!